share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV, where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is Impastable. I'm Katie, and as usual, I'm joined by Beth and Elizabeth to tell us about their recipes. So Beth, tell us what you made.
All right, so this is a recipe that came from Elizabeth High School. Her book, Come On Over. She's a Southern chef and I caterer, and I saw her on the Today Show with this recipe, which was brie pasta. And it's very decadent. And I'd seen it in the cookbook, but I never made it. So I ended up making it, I guess, last week. And it calls for a 35-ounce wheel of brie cheese, the size of a skillet, which I could not find. I ended up buying 3 small wheels of brie. The last one I bought at Aldi, which was much better, which I would recommend. Better price, because so 1.5 pounds of spaghetti, some olive oil, garlic, parsley, crushed red peppers if you want. And I did already have bacon cooked, so I cut that up, but you can also substitute mushrooms, and 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan, which is a little overkill with all that other cheese. So you cut the rind off the top of, for me, the 3 that I set in a skillet, and you put it in the oven for about 25 minutes so it's all melted and gooey. And you set that aside or leave it in the oven, because in the meantime, you're cooking your pasta, and drain it, transfer it to a large bowl. Toss it with olive oil, garlic, parsley, red pepper flakes. If you want the bacon, that's when you do it. Other than sauteed mushrooms, it would be that you add. So anyway, then you remove the brie from the oven, and then you take tonguefuls of the pasta and toss it around in the cheese, and then you put it on the plate, and then you add a little more cheese to it. And so unfortunately I made this while my husband wasn't home at the time. We had a tag team dinner, and I was working that night. So it was very good. It's a very dramatic looking. I think it would be good for company. This is what Elizabeth High School said. She's like, y'all are gonna die. And it was good, but it does not do so well as leftovers. The cheese, and the rind, it just, to me, it was a little off-putting. Tasted good, but it wasn't. It would be good for, and because supposedly it serves 8. I don't know. I'd say it would serve 4. I probably won't make it again, just because I don't need to. But it was good, and y'all could die if you have cholesterol issues. So anyway, that is my recipe.
I think it's sometimes fun to make recipes like that are just kind of like wild, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this once and just like see what happens, and it's, you can say you've done it, and that's it.
Yep, that's how I felt. I mean, it was when we came up with the category, I was like, I'm gonna make that thing I've been, I thought about, never made before. So it was great for this category.
It is wonderful for this category. I can't even imagine like the big brie, like it's exploding my brain thinking about it. And the fact that you put 3 wheels of brie into your pasta, I'm sorry, it's cracking me up. I'm sure it was lovely, but wow.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
awesome.
Super rich. Yeah, Kurt, since he ended up having it a little bit later that evening, well, he microwaved it, the brie, and it was still okay, but like a couple days later, anyway. So I did it. Yeah,
Yeah, good job.
it was rich. It was very rich. Okay, so Elizabeth, what'd you make for Impastable?
Okay, so this is funny. So I made a recipe a couple months ago that I had planned to use for this, which is my like best spaghetti and meatball recipe. But I don't make it's quite rich, the meatballs, and it's like also pretty expensive. And I took a picture of the meatballs cooking, but not of the completed recipe. And I was like, well, I don't want to like make this again right now because it's like a twice a year thing with these like meatballs and stuff. Anyway, so that's what I did, and I was like, dang, I forgot to take a picture. So I made something else. I love pasta. I would eat pasta every night. It's so good to me. But I experimented with a new to me recipe. As I mentioned both last week and this week, my recipes came from the Smitten Kitchen Keepers. And so I made green angel hair with garlic butter. And this was interesting. So you take you take a stick of butter, slice it into like just a few, this has a few pieces. I think I did like, you know how it has the cuts on it. I think I did the tablespoons. And you place that in a small baking dish. And then you slice a head of garlic crosswise, place the two halves on top, grind some salt on it, bake it in the oven for like 35 to 45 minutes until the cloves of garlic are super soft. In the meantime, you put on a pot of water to boil. You cook a pound of thin spaghetti. Angel hair is what they suggest. And so then when the garlic butter is done, so you take it out of the oven and you take tongs and kind of like squeeze the halves of the garlic, and the cloves all fall into the garlic butter or the butter. And then this did happen just as promised, so I was excited. And in the meantime, in a blender or food processor, you've taken 5 ounces of spinach, which is actually like a standard package, I realized. And you pour the garlic butter on top of it, along with some salt and pepper and some red pepper flakes again. And you blend it up. And then it said if it's a little, it's supposed to be pretty smooth. So like add a few tablespoons of pasta water if you need to, which I did. And then you stop the pasta from cooking a couple minutes before it's done. Drain it, put it back in the pot with the spinach garlic butter sauce. And a few more tablespoons of pasta water if needed, and kind of finish it in the sauce. And it was really good. But it even said this in the recipe. Like if you like greens, you can bump the greens up to 8 ounces. I definitely wish I would have. It was a little like the pasta to spinach garlic butter ratio was like too low. So I would definitely add more spinach and maybe supplement the garlic butter with olive oil next time. Much like Beth, I really craved lemon in this. I would totally squeeze a lemon into the garlic butter too. I think that would be a great addition. It was good, but like, I don't know. I was kind of just like, it needed like, I should have added chicken or maybe some like fresh tomatoes or something. Like it just felt like pasta. Like, I don't know. So I'm going to experiment with this because I liked the technique and the garlic butter was really good. But I think in the summer, I would add fresh veggies or I would add some kind of protein to this. And I would definitely add, I would either reduce the pasta or add more spinach and olive oil to make the sauce more substantive, if that's how you say that. So it was interesting. A new recipe to me, something I'm gonna experiment with, and I hope to like perfect and make again in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds delicious with the amount of garlic in there. That sounds amazing. And that you could definitely add a lot of different things to it, but
Hmm.
it sounds like it could be like a nice side dish with chicken parmesan or something like that. you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it felt like a side. That's right, Beth.
Yeah,
I was like, this is like I should have something else like in the middle of
yeah.
my plate, you know.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I like the sound of it, and I love your ideas for working on it. I think that it would be awesome with some fresh summer tomatoes
Hmm.
in there.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you added like some herbs, like some basil or something to your spinach mixture, if that might add a little punch of flavor to it too. So it sounds
Yeah,
like you
Yeah.
do a lot with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It,
I think it's like a great base. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
it's
Yeah.
sort of, so remember that Mean Green spaghetti early on the season at Reed Drummond's, where she adds a whole bunch of greens, including spinach. Same
Mhm.
idea, but yeah. Yum, yum.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, Katie, what did you make Pastable?
Okay, so well, this category was actually pretty challenging for me because I don't eat pasta. So it's like the last thing I sort of think about eating. It's really was rare for me to eat even growing up. So it's not something that is in my arsenal, like barely at all. So was trying to think of something to make, and I made a couple of things that I just wasn't really happy with. And then so I'm racking my brain, like, what are some like comforting dishes that maybe I had when I was little or something like that? And just had this memory of growing up in my small Midwest town. There was not a lot to do when I was a kid or a teenager, but one of the things that we had in a nearby town was a shopping mall. And so I spent a lot of time there. And in our food court, we had a Sbarro. And one of my very favorite things to get from Sbarro was their baked ziti. I ate it a lot as a kid and as a teenager because it was cheap, it was filling, and it was tasty. And so even when I was thinking about it, I was just like, "Ooh, I remember that. I loved it. All right, let's find a baked ziti recipe." I actually found this recipe that's called Sbarro Baked Ziti, and it's from keyingredient.com. And so it calls for 2 pounds of ziti pasta, and that is like way too much pasta for me. So the pasta that I found comes in boxes of 12 ounces. So that's how much I made. And I sort of scaled down the recipe to suit how much pasta I had. Just a note about ziti pasta can be sometimes difficult or harder to find than penne pasta. And really the only difference is the way that as far as I know, is the way that it's cut. So they're tubular pastas, but ziti is cut straight on, whereas penne is cut at a diagonal. So really they're very interchangeable. So I was using penne pasta for this. And another note is that if you're looking for it, Meyer gluten-free penne pasta brand is like really, really excellent. So good tip there. But anyway, so you preheat your oven to 350, you cook your pasta, you drain it, don't rinse it, and then in a separate large bowl, you combine ricotta cheese, Romano cheese, most of a can of tomato sauce, and black pepper. Mix that all together, and then you stir in your cooked ziti. And then they used a 13 by 9-inch pan. But what I found worked really well for this portion was a bread loaf pan. So that worked perfect for this. And you just spread the remainder of your can of tomato sauce in the bottom. And then you add your whole ziti cheese mixture to that. And you top it all with shredded mozzarella cheese. And then you sort of tent it with aluminum foil, stick it in your oven for like 15 minutes until the mozzarella is all melted on top. And then it says to serve it with garlic bread and additional sauce if desired, but I was just eating it with a fork. And it was bringing me back to my shopping mall days. And I loved it. I've made it a couple times since the first time I've made it. And it's wonderful. This is going into my comfort recipe pile, and I'll make it again and again, I'm sure.
I love that. I remember on road trips as a kid when we had to stop somewhere to eat, I would always ask, like my parents would always look for Sbarro because me and my sister that's what we would want if we had to get like, something on the road. And I can like taste the Sbarro baked ziti. It's like, that's awesome. What a good memory. I'm glad it turned out too.
Yeah. It's great.
That just brought me back to my days, the early days of Briarwood Mall and Sbarro, when there was a movie theater there.
Mhm.
And that would be what we do on the weekends, is go to Sbarro. I always got pizza though. But I was just picturing myself and my friends at that time, and it just really brought me back. So that's very cool.
I love that everybody has pleasant Sbarro memories.
I know.
That's wonderful. Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching Recipe Share. Be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about and to share your own in the comments. Join us next time when we'll be talking about recipes that are getting saucy. We're looking forward to seeing what you've been making, so thanks for sharing.
Recipe share, share a little recipe